Hello, friends. Are you ready to hear the rest of the tale? Then let us commence. Last time we caught up with our strange heroes, they had just stepped into a teleportation circle bound for the abyssal gate town of Plaguemort on the way to their latest job. A simple enough sounding retrieval of a crate from a warehouse, and then an escort back to Sigil. Simple enough sounding. Yes. Whether it shook out that way was anyone's guess. Actually, guessing probably doesn't factor into it at all, so I'm going to go ahead and say that this'll go scattershot 17 ways to Odin's Day before they even get the crate. Anyway, stepping into the teleportation circle at the Temple of Knowledge in the Clerk's Ward, the heroes arrived in Plaguemort in a flash, finding themselves in an out-of-the-way spot in the middle of a ruined building. Strangely, at the other end of the building was a portal that seemed to be reacting to their arrival and malfunctioning. Minko and Brace, with their whole, Minko and Brace thing, felt the interference as well, along with a searing, though temporary, headache. Leaving the structure a little uneasy, the companions headed into the city, following the path of airships toward the airfield. Unsurprisingly, Plaguemort appeared to be a shell of a city, ruined and decaying, choking with pollution and open sewers with a pervasive sense of misery, malice, and danger. Soon enough, they found themselves at the airfield, and just after that, the warehouse that was their goal. The place was under guard by a troop of heavily armored, capable-looking tieflings who told the heroes that the warehouse was locked down and that they couldn't get their crate. They were also told to speak to the Archlector if they had a problem with that. With some digging, they learned that someone had attempted to break into the warehouse the night before, hence the lockdown. The need for more information led to a brazen and wildly successful pickpocketing attempt by Drogon, who managed to abscond with one of the guard's enchanted eye loops, used for decrypting the magi-cryptid shipping information. With the loop, the heroes were able to discover the crate's designation and details, as well as 1. The crate had come from Darkon, a city in the domains of Dread, a demiplane tied to the Shadowfell. Whether it had originated there or had only come through there was uncertain. 2. The crate contained a miscellaneous magical element, one large glass container with unknown liquid inside. Oh yeah, I'm sure all of that is leagues above board, nothing ominous or eerie about any or all of that in part or in whole, combined or separate, totally safe and peril-free. With that information, the companions headed into the city proper, choosing to forgo speaking with the Archlector and to instead plan a heist. Heading into town, after witnessing an example of extreme justice meted out by the town's militia, an unruly gang of mostly infernal-based thugs known as the Hounds, they discovered a relatively bustling market and merchant area, as well as an inn, the Eye of the Dragon, where they could headquarter themselves. It seemed that this part of the Abyssal Touch town had a level of upkeep that kept it on the not-so-depressing or ominous side of things. Thanks to the surprisingly warmish and welcoming-ish atmosphere, as well as the begrudging helpfulness of the drow owner, White Scar, the companions were sold on getting a room at the inn. After checking into their room, the heroes set about planning their next move. The plan was to have Drogon and Minko infiltrate the warehouse for a look at the crate, and to gather information on the building's defenses and the like. With that, the heroes headed back out into the dusk. Wending through town as stealthily as possible, our friends soon noticed that guard patrols had been increased, with the presence of the Hounds becoming more frequent as they went. Shortly after, Varys and Regal managed to create a diversion by attracting the attention of 2 guards who were blocking the way to the warehouse, allowing Minko and Drogon to sneak by. The guards detained Regal and Varys, taking them to the Archlector's keep. After some time spent in the keep's dungeon, the duo were brought before the Archlector, a tiefling who seemed interested in the heroes for their novelty and use as an unknown quantity in town. Offering to release their crate in return, he asked them to track down and deal with whoever had attempted to break into the warehouse. By way of helping, he offered up 2 potential leads and/or suspects. Suspect number 1. Rumor had it a cult of some sort was squatting in the Church of Zionin, a ruined and abandoned demonic cathedral on the outskirts of town. Word on the street, extracted by the Hounds, was that several people in Plaguemort had suddenly started asking around about the warehouse, and these people may have been linked to the church. The Lector seemed bullish on this particular lead, suggesting the heroes start their investigation there. Suspect number 2. Over the last year, a gang of primes known as the Illuminated had moved into town and instantly began upsetting the rightful order of things, offering much sought-after goods from the prime material plane and refusing to pay the usual taxes. The Illuminated operated out of a tavern called the Bell and Whistle and stoked a growing tension between them and the Hounds. The Lector wasn't sure it was them, but wouldn't be surprised. He also seemed ambivalent about them, as there was a sense he may be playing the Illuminated off the Hounds and vice versa. Ah, the delicious intrigues of Plaguemore. Meanwhile, Drogon and Minko arrived at the heavily guarded warehouse. In a tense but successful flurry of stealth and acrobatics, the duo managed to infiltrate the lightless building through a window on the roof. Quickly making their way down to the warehouse floor, they were able to locate the crate, a large, ominous-looking and independently floating crate emblazoned with several different and extremely serious magic symbols and wards. As they tentatively approached the crate, Minko and Braze felt a presence weakly reach out from the container, just as they were once again beset by sharp head pains. As a lost for words Drogon looked from the crate back to his fellow infiltrator, he was surprised to see Minko was no longer there, and the familiar and not-so-stealthy form of Braze in his place. Despite the initial shock of having the Dragonborn sorcerer appear out of thin air in place of Minko, Drogon and Braze managed to find some clues and a secret way out of, and into the warehouse via a sewer grate and line that led into the Plaguemore sewer system, such as it is. Meanwhile at the keep, Varys and Regal spoke more with the Archlector, who offered them hundreds in gold, plus some potions to deal with the local issues he had described. Taking the money and job given it seemed in line with their own quest, the Eladrin cleric and haunted suit of armor left and headed back to the inn. On their way back, Drogon and Braze did some quick reconnaissance in town, taking to the rooftops to reach the Hound's stronghold/barracks/tavern, the Golden Griffin, and then returned to the inn. While waiting for their friends, Varys and Regal asked around at the Eye of the Dragon about the cult, and eventually, after Drogon and Braze arrived, they managed to shake down an eavesdropping regular, Grutch, who repeated some recent rumors he heard about the cult in the long-abandoned Church of Zionin, the main one being that the cultists seemed to be made up of mostly, if not all, Shadar Kai, the elves native to the Shadowfell. Feeling a growing time pressure, the heroes set out for the Church of Zionin with haste. On the way, Drogon made a stop at the town's renowned poison shop, the Poisoner's File, and bought a special poison known as Murk from the proprietress, Laren Suspirus. Wending through an increasingly abandoned and increasingly unsettling portion of town, populated almost exclusively by groups of the undead, the heroes came upon the terrible and harrowing demonic church, a massive, disturbingly designed and crafted cathedral of rusted abyssal steel and stone. Not having the luxury of turning back, our friends made their way inside the Church of Zionin, to face whatever horrors awaited within. And, welp, since there are indeed so many horrors awaiting inside, we're going to need to wait until next time to get into them all in proper detail. Ha!